Hey guys! As I said the other day, I'm going to be doing something a little bit new, especially as it relates to stuff that's become more and more mainstream with the emphasis and the focus on gay rights and the criticisms and stuff there. And this is a paper I wrote for my crime theory class. And it's just something that I want to share with you guys. Really, I'm really proud of it, and B, because it's something that, and I feel like many people can take bits and pieces and like some of the opinions from it and kind of like try to understand and improve their behavior. Now, it's a really long paper, so I'm not going to do everything all at once. So that was the why I'm doing this. Today will be the brief summary. So if you feel like you want to come back and watch more of it, you can, or if you're not going to. And then the introduction part of it, and then the next couple of days will be the rest of the paper until I am done. So I'm going to do section by section. So the title is Does It Get Better? Victimization of the Homosexual Population. And let's get started. So the abstract, so this is like the summary of what this is about and what this is going to talk about and what it's going to say. The debate about homosexual equality has recently become more visible among the general population. This paper takes a look at the reasoning behind the violence and why the FBI is right in determining that homosexual violence should be treated as a hate crime. It uses the lifestyles theory and principle of homogeny found within that theory to establish a foundation of reasoning behind the violence, looking at two cases to example the two branches of theories, and then using studies to further explain the application of the theory and principle. The findings indicate that society is too used to what is considered normal and unwilling to change both politically and religiously. So now if you're intrigued, continue listening to this, and if not, ignore the next couple of videos. And I apologize if this hurts you, or if this is not what you expected. So, one of the hottest debates in society is the full visibility of the homosexual population, determined to be treated just as every other heterosexual person. The heat of these issues brings about more visible notice of violence towards homosexual people because it's right in the center of the public's eye. Violence towards people who openly admit a deep attraction to members of the same gender is not a new idea. The reason that so many homosexual people are the target of violence and abusive language is because the offenders are afraid of the lifestyle, something they do not understand. To these people, something they cannot or do not understand is terrifying enough to the point of unnecessary violence, such as the lifestyles theory instituted by Michael Hindling, Michael Gottfredson, and James Garofalo of criminology suggests. It has existed for many years, from at least the 1980s, if not earlier. These offenses can be as late as federal crimes, as in the 2012 Atlanta case reviewed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, or the Porter Atkins case in 2013. On the other hand, it can be as heavy as murder, such as in Matthew Shepard in 1998, Gary McCurtry case in 2002, and Mark Carson most recently in 2013. At least when I wrote this paper. I'm sure there's more since then. When looking at only incidents of anti-male homosexual incidents in 1996 in the United States, 940 were reported as victims. In total, 1,281 victims reported they were victims because of their sexual orientation. That comes from the Hate Crime Statistics 1996, U.S. Department of Justice, page 7. Of the 6,718 offenses reported in 2012 to the UCR, 1,134 reports in the United States were because of sexual orientation. This means that in 2012, which is only 2 years ago, 16.8% of all crimes in the United States were committed because of sexual orientation. In both years, the amounts of reports have increased in number. It is not just the United States that is affected. In 1971, FATA studied homosexual murders in Austria, lifestyles and violence, homosexual victims of assault and murder, Miller, that's where that information came from. In 1975, Sagarin and McNamara theorized that homosexuals were at a greater risk of being victimized. They were right when they implied that victimization of homosexuals may be expected to increase as they gain liberation. Lifestyles and violence, homosexual victims of assault and murder, Miller, page 171. Not only has criminal activity increased in general since these studies, but so has the visibility of crimes against homosexuals, which the FBI has now classified as a hate crime. There's not a ton of information on this subject because it is severely underreported. Many victims of hate crime, especially of homosexual victimization, go unreported for fear that police and law enforcement will be unsympathetic. Miller's study identifies that his subjects that frequented tea rooms and who were blackmailed was most often from police officers. In a study by Christina Wolf and Carrie Coakley in 2007, she studied the incidents gathered by a Minnesota Gay Lesbian Trans Alliance group, GLBTA, from 1990 to 2000 that examined police responses to GLBTA incidents. Wolf states that in a study by Burrell, he found that 20% of anti-GLBTA incidents were caused by those in charge of protecting the people. Wolf and Coakley's own study supported this. She too found that 20% of reports identified that the victims were in direct contact with the police. According to this study, cities are reluctant to recognize incidences of bias, for these types of crimes will have a negative effect on the city. To protect and serve, an explanation of police conduct in relation to the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community, page 14. And there's so much to say on the fact that that cities are refusing to acknowledge that. Your city is really more important than an individual right, which is constitutionally based. Really? And that is the end of that section. The next part is going to be the Gary McCurtry or Brazon case from Ohio in the 2000s. That's going to be the next chunk. So, see you then.